Alright, so I'm going to do a full walkthrough, kind of what I did with my shop. It's actually going to end up being a forge, but for now, we'll do a walkthrough starting with some of the wiring I did. So this is my main box on the side of the house, right next to the meter. Alright, I had an extra port here, so I bought a 100 amp double dim amp. Ran the grounding wire in, and then power wires. This is a 6 gauge copper wire. All right, so we ran it in. I actually got it grounded here to the ground bar. It's bonded. You can see the bonded screw there, the grounding screw. Power wires, ran it up along the house. Not a professional electrician. This is all me, just rinking-dinking it. All right, ran it under the eave, across, under my deck, up to the corner over there. When we get over there, you'll see it. All right. So, don't mess over there, please. Come on. So, going from here, you can see how I ran it. I just got some braided cable from Harbor Freight and some anchors and turnbuckles. So I ran it up to the top peak. I still got to cut all the zip ties down. Ran it across the cable, all the way over to the pitch of the roof. All right, tighten the turnbuckles down, raise the cable up, pretty snug. All right. Ran it in through a gap in the siding. All right. Then down through pre-drill holes, except for this one. I didn't filter this one through. And by the time I hooked it up and realized it, I didn't want to change it. So I'm a lazy sack. So this is a main breaker panel, actually, that I got at Lowe's.com. It came with all the breakers already. It was like 109 bucks. So I had to remove the bonding screw from here, because on a sub panel, you can't have it bonded. It'll cause issues with your electricity. Amps and stuff will escape from the research I did. I don't understand it all. Like I said, I'm not an electrician, but did some research. Everybody said not to do it. All right, so I actually ran it to the main breaker. This was factory installed, just so that I have power cutoff here at the shop if I need it. So 2 power lines coming into the main breaker, and then grounding wire to, or excuse me, neutral to the neutral terminal. Technically, you're supposed to run a grounding wire from the main box out, but I didn't. I actually grounded the box itself here in the shop. So when I wired it, I wired the lights to a 20 amp, the one offset outlet, which is that one there, to its own amp, because I'm going to be pulling a lot of the power off of that one. And then the rest are this 20 amp, which is way more amps than you need for the small amount of outlets that I ran. And then this is the 220 outlet that I'm going to use. So in the sub panel, you got your grounding bar, your neutral bar. All right. And then I bought an additional grounding bar because doing research, I wired this originally like it was a main panel, which you have the ground bar and the neutral bar bonded together. But in the sub panel, you can't do that. But I had already ran all the wires over here. So I just didn't feel like stripping down more wire and rerunning grounding wires over here. So I just bought a separate grounding bar and just bent the grounding wires the opposite way and grounded to that. So with this, I grounded my box to itself, or by itself, outside of the main breaker. I ran a 6-foot grounding rod with the dirt that we have here you only need one. Some places you'll need two set apart from each other, but I didn't. We don't need it here. I'm pretty sure outside of that grounding, this is wired completely up to code for where I'm at. But this was actually really intimidating to me. It's the first time I've done any kind of electrical stuff. But once I got into it, it's actually fairly simple. All right, so we'll go outside. Coming out, I'm gonna close the door. So this started as a 12 by 20 foot pad. The guy I bought the house from had a lean-to metal shed out here, and he had a car lift. He worked on his vehicles out here. So it was a bare pad that I was gonna put a gazebo fire pit area on, but changed it because I got the deck, so I really don't need another sitting area. And my neighbor, who's a good buddy of mine, I work with him, gave me a bunch of wood. He runs a sawmill on his free time, and he had a bunch of extra oak stuff lying around and just came over and dumped it in my yard. So this building is actually built, I'd say 90% of free lumber that he got. The only lumber I bought was for the roofing to make the trusses. So get a shop this size, built this sturdy, you're probably looking at, I don't know, 9-10 grand. And right now with the little bit of lumber, the wiring, the roof, and the siding, I'm into it for maybe, I don't know, 1,500 bucks. So, all right, we started off framing. I drove these posts. These are 6x6 white oak posts, given to me by him. Originally they were between 12 and 13 foot tall. I drove them 2 feet in the ground, coated the ends with roofing tar, and then the bottom foot, 12 inches of it, are cemented in. All right, that just coats it that way it doesn't rot or anything like that. Then I got a laser level and leveled it off. So the 4 corners are 8 foot tall. The center beam is 9 foot. That gave me my 12 inches of pitch on top of adding the beam and the 1x3s. It gives me, and the roof ridge cap gives me a total of roughly 14 inches of pitch. Okay. None of this is square. I got it as close as I could, but I'm not a professional. I just do this stuff because I have the know-how and the drive to do it. And like I said, I had the lumber lying around, and I got tired of staring at a bare concrete pad in my yard. So, inside, we did basic framing. I used 4x4s for most of it. I do have some 2x4s of rough lumber. Like I said, he gave me those and the 4x4s. So I used what I had. Typically with framing you use 2x4s, but I used what I had. So most of it's 4x4s. These 2x4s here I had lying around from another project. But yeah, the only lumber I bought for this was to make the truss. Like I said, they're not professionally done. The bracing's probably not gapped correctly or whatever, but built enough stuff to know what wood will hold. These are, I think, yellow pine, I think is what I got for the trusses. And so you'll see this one I didn't even totally brace in because I had the 4x4 post for the overhang. There's more than enough weight bearing here without having to run a full truss. These are spaced roughly 48 inches apart, give or take 3 or 4 inches. Like I said, just depending on how it played out. I'm not a professional. It's not totally ideal. This here actually ended up being like, I think 53 inches for some reason from the oak post to in here. So that's why I had to shim this up so that the 4x8 siding panel I could actually drill into, and then I had to cut another piece to fill the gap. Still got a lot of gaps I gotta fill in. So for the pitch, you'll see a lot of gaps. I just used scraps. I didn't want to cut nice fresh piece of siding, so I used what I had. So what I'll do is come through with some Flex Seal or some kind of exterior caulking, and I'll just fill all these gaps in nice and tight. For ventilation, I am leaving the gap here and a decent sized gap up there, as well as the gap in between the roof panels and the spacing of the 1x3s, just to give ventilation in here. Let's see. Everything's semi-level. I did a pretty decent job of leveling everything out, but like I said, it's not 100%. You can see at some parts, like here, I had some twist in the post. So I got a lot of screws in here holding this up, but there is a twist in the post. I couldn't get it totally flush, but this thing's pretty damn sturdy. But I'll go through and fill all those gaps. You guys are probably like, why the hell is there grass growing in your building? So this concrete pad actually has a footer. It's like 4 inches once you get down into it. So to drive the post down, I actually had to move out a few inches, so it gave me a gap in between the posts. But what I'm going to do is go through and I'll dig all this up, and I'll run lumber on the outside. I'm actually going to fill this all with concrete, just to keep the snakes and stuff out of here and give it a little bit cleaner look. You're like, look, it looks like shit, but that's fine. I was going to do cross bracing in between the studs, but once I started getting the siding and the roof and just the weight of everything, it snugged everything up. The only thing I did do was cross brace the beam, since that's my main weight bearing system. Even though that 6x3 by, what is that, 13-foot beam probably is not ever gonna go anywhere, but I like to overbuild things, just that way I make sure it lasts. I built this whole thing with these tools here. So I did it with angle grinder, hammer drills, circular saw, the reciprocating saw, which all of those are bought from Harbor Freight, just so you know. Like, not much. I've had them for a while. Power drill, and then I finally went and got a damn impact drill because it just made life so much easier. I borrowed my buddy's for about 5 minutes until the battery died, and yeah, I liked it a lot, so I went and got one. But again, that's Harbor Freight special. The door is all friction fit. It's on a caster so that it rolls. Originally I was going to do a sliding barn door, but when I got to looking at the rail systems for that stuff, I was like, yeah, that's too much money, and I don't have a welder and the tools to cut pieces of metal to do any kind of fabrication yet. So I said, screw it, I'm just gonna do a hinge door. So it runs on a caster, everything is friction fit. So friction here keeps this closed. It's been super windy here, and there is a little draft that comes through, but it doesn't blow this open. And then it's a tight open, but I like that because, again, friction holds the door open. So even with the wind blowing, it had to kick up pretty hard. It was probably up to, I don't know, 40 miles an hour to get that door to blow closed. But like I said, you can see all the individual cuts I did. I'm not a professional. I just wanted to make it look half-ass decent, but I used all scrap for most of it. The metal roofing was fairly easy. It's not something I would go walk on top of because the bracing is only these 1x3s outside of the beam and the trusses. But I don't plan on walking up there. If I got to do any kind of repairs or something, my buddy's got a pretty gnarly tractor. I'll just have him lift me up and do it. So that's the shop. See, and I still got plenty of lumber that he still gave me. I got 2 more 6x6 beams and a crap ton of freaking 4x4s. And then he gave me a crap ton of plywood too, that I'm gonna do some stuff with. But that's the shop. That's how I did it. If you got any questions, y'all can ask. But it's sturdy. I mean, this thing doesn't. My damn metal roof of my house and stuff rattles more than this thing does when the storms roll through so far. So, pretty sure they'll be here for a while. But if you got any questions or anything like that, you can post and comment. I'm not super active on this stuff, so I might not respond right away, but I'll try. And then once I get all the equipment, start forging, I'll probably do another video and let y'all see how it's all going. But that's pretty much it. Oh, dang girl, left the lights on. Girls were out here messing with these power tools. So, yep. Y'all have a good one. God bless.